What's it? This looks like a boat key. Did you buy the boat?
Yeah.
Me and her, we were on a little hunting trip when we saw that gut tree in the road. That's right, everyone sees the tree.
Why is there a tree in the middle of the road?
Must have got knocked down in a storm or something.
That's when the voices started. When she started seeing things, she painted everything she saw. She said it was a place that was everywhere, but you couldn't find it if you tried.
We made it. We don't have much time. I need you to kill me.
People who were lost, who found themselves living inside a nightmare that they couldn't escape.
Hello? Is there someone there?
Yes, we're here.
Jim Matthews? Your wife shouldn't be digging that hole, Jim.
It's time to wake up. It's time to wake everybody up.
Baby, please.
She said they were holding on to hope, and when that hope was gone, they held on to each other.
It knows you won't listen. It wants you to fight. It wants you to have hope. Because hope is what makes you willing to suffer. You're all gonna die, screaming in ways you can't even imagine.
The horror series From, created by John Griffin, draws us into a terrifying, enigmatic world. Set in a mysterious town with no discernible entrance or exit, the show portrays a pocket dimension that traps unsuspecting people from across the United States. A common scenario unfolds. Travelers encounter a fallen tree blocking a forest road, prompting them to take an alternative route that leads them in endless circles, until they arrive in the ominous town that they can never leave. However, entering the town is only the beginning of the nightmare. By day, the locale appears unsettling yet manageable, but as night falls, the true terror emerges. Bloodthirsty, human-like creatures lurking in the nearby woods. These nocturnal monsters hunt relentlessly, attacking anyone caught outside after dark. The townsfolk survive by securing themselves inside with the doors locked, windows nailed shut, and mysterious talismans adorned with strange markings, protective charms that repel the creatures. Hey guys, what's happening? Nihat here with Film Comics Explained, and today we're breaking down the creatures in the show, everything we know from the 3 seasons of From, including all the characters, followed by a review at the very end.
Those things, they walk, they never run. It's like they're taking their time because they know there's only so many places we can go.
Hi, Trudy.
The creatures in From are a haunting presence, embodying a terror that transcends the physical and delves into the psychological. Emerging only at night, these humanoid monsters roam the town and its surroundings, preying on the trapped residents with calculated cruelty. They are not mindless predators, but methodical hunters who exploit fear and emotional vulnerabilities, turning every encounter into a dark performance of horror. At first glance, the creatures appear disturbingly human. Their pale, ghostly complexions and mid-20th century clothing make them seem like spectral echoes of the past, while their unnerving smiles mask the horrors they conceal. This guise serves as their primary weapon of deception, luring victims into a false sense of security. Once their true form is revealed, the illusion shatters to expose grotesque, deformed bodies adorned with razor-sharp claws and rows of jagged teeth. Their slow, deliberate movements, combined with a menacing aura, create a sense of inevitability that paralyzes their prey with fear. What makes these creatures particularly terrifying is their intelligence and emotional awareness. They are not mere predators, they are manipulators. They mimic the voices of loved ones, exploiting their victims' grief and guilt to lure them into opening doors or abandoning the safety of talismans.
I can't keep coming here, knowing I'll see you but never get to feel you, knowing that you're disgusted by me.
No.
Their attacks are not just about physical harm, but about inflicting profound psychological trauma. Victims are often forced to witness the gruesome deaths of loved ones, a calculated cruelty that breaks their spirit. The creatures seem to delight in this torment, deriving pleasure from their victims' despair. Their nocturnal nature adds to their mystique. During daylight hours, they retreat to hidden caves, slumped against rocky walls. Victor, one of the longest surviving residents, reveals that they hoard human belongings, possibly as trophies or traps, hinting at a bizarre, almost ritualistic behavior. In one chilling instance, a creature was seen lounging on a stolen sofa, a jarring image that underscores their eerie blend of human-like traits and monstrous intent. These lairs also serve as their sanctuaries, and Victor believes the caves are where they sleep, shielded from the sunlight that may harm them. Despite their apparent invincibility, the creatures are not without vulnerabilities. The discovery of talismans in a forest cave by Sheriff Boyd marked a turning point for the town's survival. These talismans, when placed at doors and windows, create a protective barrier that the creatures cannot cross. However, this protection is not absolute. The creature's psychological manipulation can bypass physical defenses, making their victims unwilling participants in their own demise. The history of these creatures is steeped in mystery and horror, which we'll dive into further as we continue with this video. Travelers have been falling victim to the town and its horrors for at least a century, with Victor as a living testament to their reign of terror in the 1970s. As a child, Victor witnessed the creatures annihilate the town's residents, leaving him the sole survivor for an extended, isolating period. His experiences offer fragmented insights into their behaviors, but much remains shrouded in uncertainty.
You know how sometimes you dream and you forget, and you realize that it wasn't a dream and that all of it maybe really happens?
One of the most unsettling aspects of the creatures is their evolution. Before the talismans were discovered, their presence was announced by shrieks and howls that pierced the night. After the townspeople began using talismans, though, the creatures adapted, switching to whispers that insinuated themselves into their victims' minds, sowing doubt and fear. Their ability to control aspects of the environment hints at a deeper, more sinister force at play that may be guiding them. Radios in the town sporadically pick up inexplicable signals, and during attempts to contact the outside world, voices belonging to the creatures intervene. This control over technology, combined with their psychological warfare, positions the creatures as both omnipresent and omnipotent within the town's confines. Their ultimate goal is another unanswered question. Are they merely predators driven by a need to hunt and torment, or are they enforcers of some larger, malevolent agenda tied to the realm's mysterious origins? The discovery of symbols in the caves and their connection to the enigmatic entity that seems to control this locale suggest a dark, ritualistic underpinning to their existence. Perhaps they are not acting independently, but are bound to serve a greater evil, enforcing its will on the trapped inhabitants. What we do know for certain is that the creatures in From are more than just monsters. They are a manifestation of fear, loss, and despair. Their calculated cruelty, combined with their grotesque physicality and manipulative intelligence, makes them an unsettling force. As we dive through each season, I'll explain more of the major revelations we get about the creatures and life in From at large.
It's not safe here. This is where they sleep. They make drawings too.
The little girl in a room filled with broken glass. She knows the broken pieces used to mean something, but all she can see are the shards.
It's safe to say that Season 1 left viewers with more questions than answers, encouraging speculation and theories about the town's nature, the monsters, and the talismans. In it, we learn the town is split into two contrasting factions. The central town, led by the self-appointed Sheriff Boyd Stevens, operates under a structured, democratic system. Boyd, a retired soldier, enforces rules and patrols the streets every evening, signaling residents to lock themselves in before nightfall. His pretty strict policies are aimed at protecting everyone from the deadly creatures.
Time to come in, sweetie.
Just 5 more minutes, please.
Megan, listen to your mom.
Okay, Sheriff.
You see, the rules we live by are meant to protect each other, to keep each other safe.
This is what happens when you break the rules.
Boyd Stevens is essentially the reluctant leader and moral center of From, who takes on the role of town sheriff out of necessity rather than desire. Haunted by his past and driven by a need to protect, Boyd is a stoic, no-nonsense figure whose decision-making often walks the fine line between pragmatism and ruthlessness. Despite his hardened exterior, Boyd's sense of duty remains unwavering, and his willingness to sacrifice for others makes him a compelling protagonist. Across the 3 seasons, Boyd's arc is defined by his attempts to unravel the mysteries of Fromville, his struggle with a debilitating illness, and his determination to shield the townsfolk from the horrors that lurk in the dark.
You created order from chaos. You made it possible for people here to live again, not just survive. And I wish you had the luxury of grief, but you don't, Boyd.
On the outskirts, the Colony House offers an alternative lifestyle. Run by Donna, this community embraces freedom and self-sufficiency, living communally like hippies and growing their own food. The divide between the town and Colony House reflects differing philosophies on survival and societal structure.
I know you guys from town look at Colony House and figure it's all just drinking and fucking, but it was more than that.
All right, little guy, give that a try and let me know how it feels.
Why are you doing this? What do you mean? You guys barely know us. It's just what we do.
As I mentioned, Donna is the hardened, no-nonsense leader of the Colony House and serves as a counterpoint to Boyd's more structured authority in the town. While Boyd represents order and rules, Donna embodies the chaos and freedom of survival. She oversees Colony House with a rough, maternal presence, offering a sanctuary for those who reject the rigid confines of the main town. Her tragic backstory, marked by the death of her sister during their time in Fromville, shaped her tough-as-nails exterior and unwillingness to make hard decisions. Her leadership style can be abrasive, often clashing with Boyd and other residents, but her pragmatism ensures Colony House remains functional. Beneath her gruff demeanor, Donna cares deeply for her community, but she refuses to show weakness, believing that vulnerability is a liability in a world where monsters lurk in the dark.
You're crazy. You don't know how many nights I've laid awake wishing that were true. You saw those things outside.
No, I don't know what I saw.
That's what my sister said. I thought my sister was gonna run this son of a bitch over. He never did have much patience for assholes. I'll never forget how I stood there, so still. And then it ripped her face off, right in front of me. I realized I could still hear my sister screaming. They weren't just killing her, they were torturing her. And I just left her there.
The series' title, From, hints at the existential question haunting the residents. Where are they? Deputy Kenny reveals to newcomer Jade that every resident comes from a different place in the US. He and his family were traveling from Austin, Texas, while Christy, the town's medic, was in Detroit when she encountered the same fallen tree and circling crows that signaled her arrival.
Everyone enters from different parts of the country, on different roads and different places. And they all, presumably, see the same tree.
All those different places, different roads, yet everybody ended up here.
The absence of any identifiable geography suggests that the town is entirely disconnected from the physical world, existing in another worldly pocket dimension.
I know you and Kenny are close. How's he doing? The truth is, he needs to be ready to leave.
Can I be honest with you? I get that you want to prepare him for the worst. But right now, I don't think he needs a sheriff. I think he needs a dad.
It should be noted that Kenny Lou is Boyd's loyal deputy and a central figure in maintaining order in the chaotic world of Fromville. A former college student with dreams of a normal life, Kenny's growth over the seasons is marked by his transition from an optimistic, rule-abiding young man to a hardened survivor. It's also interesting to see how Kenny's deep-seated sense of justice occasionally puts him at odds with Boyd. Despite these conflicts, though, Kenny remains a dependable and resourceful presence, often stepping up to fill the leadership void when Boyd falters. His budding relationship with Christy adds a layer of humanity to his character, though it's complicated by the arrival of Christy's fiancée, Marielle.
You and Kenny make a really cute couple.
No, we're just friends.
Why? He's really sweet and he loves you. Were you married?
Engaged. I wonder sometimes what it must be like for her, thinking I abandoned her.
When it comes to Christy Miller, she's the town's de facto medic, a medical student thrust into a leadership role in the absence of proper medical facilities or resources. Warm, compassionate, and level-headed, Christy embodies the best qualities of a caregiver, often acting as a calming influence in the midst of chaos. Her backstory reveals a woman who had dreams of becoming a doctor but ended up in From before she could realize them. Christy's relationship with Kenny becomes a focal point of her story, creating emotional stakes as she navigates her feelings while reconciling her past. Her role as both a healer and a source of moral support makes her indispensable to the town's survival, even as she grapples with her own doubts and fears.
What is that?
Saline. We don't exactly have much in the way of supplies around here.
So are you a doctor?
I was a third-year medical student.
The cunning of the creatures is showcased in a chilling incident early in the very first episode. A young girl, Megan, is deceived by one of the creatures, posing as her deceased grandmother. Convinced of her grandmother's presence, Megan opens the door, inviting the creatures inside.
I've missed you so much.
Megan, no!
The next morning, Boyd discovers the bodies of Megan and her mother Lauren. This tragedy, caused in part by Lauren's husband Frank's negligence, as he was out drinking instead of protecting his family, leads to dire consequences. As punishment, Frank is locked in the box, a small iron shelter in the center of town, left defenseless against the night creatures. Outside the pocket dimension, the Matthews family, led by Jim and Tabitha, whose relationship is on the rocks, and their children Julie and Ethan, encounter the infamous fallen tree while traveling in their RV. After taking an alternative route, they find themselves trapped in the looping forest road and stumble upon the town during a funeral for Megan and Lauren.
Jim, this is insane. That woman and her little girl were ripped apart.
Tabitha is the emotional backbone of her family and one of the most determined characters in From. A mother who's deeply protective of her children, her journey is driven by her desire to shield them from the horrors of Fromville while uncovering the town's dark secrets. Haunted by the accidental death of her youngest child in the real world, Tabitha carries an immense amount of guilt, which fuels her resolve to find meaning in their plight.
There are things that you only understand when you become a parent. One of those things is that you live for your children.
Her investigative nature leads her to dig, both literally and metaphorically, into the mysteries of Fromville. Her interactions with the children, particularly Ethan, show her unwavering maternal instincts, even as she navigates the town's crushing hopelessness.
Sorry, buddy. Norman's dead. When you're dead, you're gone. Mom, Julie killed Norman! The monsters killed him.
There's no such thing as monsters, honey. And if there's no such thing as monsters, then that means that Norman's still alive, doesn't it?
Her husband Jim is the pragmatic, problem-solving patriarch and the quintessential man of action. As an engineer, Jim approaches the mysteries of Fromville with a logic and a methodical mindset, which contrasts sharply with Tabitha's more emotional and intuitive approach. He's often the first to propose practical solutions, such as building a tower to contact the outside world, but his tendency to focus on tangible problems sometimes blinds him to the emotional needs of his family. Jim's relationship with Tabitha is strained by their shared guilt over their son's death, yet he remains fiercely protective of her and their children. Despite his flaws, his determination and resourcefulness make him a critical figure in the struggle against the town's horrors.
Oh my God!
Julie? Julie, I need you to look at me.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I think so. What's wrong with Mom? Is she okay?
She's gonna be fine. We're all gonna be fine. I'm gonna get us out of here.
Their daughter Julie is the archetypal rebellious teenager, grappling with the transition from adolescence to adulthood while stuck in the purgatory of Fromville. Her initial resentment toward her parents, particularly for their perceived failures after the death of her sibling, manifests in defiance and self-isolation. However, as the series progresses, Julie evolves into a more empathetic and proactive character. Julie's arc is actually one of the show's most dynamic, with her transformation reflecting the toll and resilience required to survive in this town.
You make it seem like everything will just be okay once I admit that I was wrong, like I always have to do.
I didn't say that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry too.
Finally, Ethan is the youngest member of the Matthews family, and serves as the story's lens into innocence and hope amidst the darkness of Fromville. As a child, Ethan often processes the town's horrors through a lens of wonder and imagination, which allows him to connect with characters like Victor and the boy in white. His belief in the supernatural elements of Fromville is less hindered by skepticism, making him more attuned to the town's underlying mysteries. Ethan's role as a storyteller, crafting fables about the boy in white in the town's history, adds a symbolic layer to his character. He represents the fragile hope that the adults often struggle to hold on to.
Mom and Dad are trying to figure out where we are so we can all go home. That's what the common octa would do.
When the Matthews family arrive, confused at why they keep circling the town despite heading in one direction, Boyd instructs them to stay on the road to find the highway, but secretly sets a spike trap to force them to return. Before this plan succeeds, The RV crashes while swerving to avoid another car driven by Toby. The accident leaves Ethan severely injured, and the family's integration into the town begins with a harrowing night where Jim, Boyd, and Christy are forced to care for Ethan while the monsters hounded them from outside.
What do you mean, make the RV safe?
What?
Safe from what?
Jim, there are things you need to understand about what happens next.
As the Matthews family adjust to their new reality, Boyd offers them a choice: live in the central town or in Colony House.
Should you choose to spend your time with the people of the town, you will select the rock. Should you choose to join with the people of Colony House, you will select the flower.
Meanwhile, Toby's friend Jade, a software developer who just sold his company and was intoxicated in the car when it entered the dimension, also finds himself stuck in the town.
So you're telling me I'm in a town I can't leave, and that every night when the sun goes down, monsters come from the forest to hunt us? Cough. This is something.
Jade is the show's wild card, a brash, arrogant tech entrepreneur whose sharp wit and cynicism often mask his vulnerability. Introduced as a seemingly self-centered outsider, Jade becomes one of the most fascinating characters as his obsession with the town's cryptic symbols drives much of the series' mythology. His visions of Christopher and his interactions with the Ankui children deepen his character, blending his intellectual arrogance with a growing sense of existential dread. For me, Jade's arc highlights his evolution from skeptic to reluctant believer as he begins to piece together Fromville's ancient and sinister history. Despite his often abrasive personality, his intelligence and resourcefulness make him an invaluable asset in the fight against the town's horrors. His role as both a skeptic and a seeker of truth make him one of the show's most compelling and unpredictable characters.
Someone is doing this, and I'm not gonna rest until I figure out how.
Well, then you're gonna lose your mind, okay? Because that's what happens to people who can't adapt.
Here's probably as good a time as any to talk about one of the residents called Sarah Myers, who's one of the most complex and divisive characters in From, who becomes a very pivotal figure. A waitress with a dark secret, Sarah begins hearing voices from the monsters, which manipulate her into committing horrific acts. The creatures effectively promise a way out for everyone if she carries out their commands, which involve helping them kill some of the residents.
They said that if I didn't do it, that he would die, that everyone would die.
She does this by leaving the door open to the clinic, allowing them to kill a nurse called Gina and Bing Kwang, Kenny's father, and a long-term patient there. Following this, they ask her to kill Ethan, and in the ensuing struggle, she accidentally kills her brother Nathan instead. Naturally, this puts a target on her head, with everyone wanting retribution except for Father Cartry, who tries to help Sarah by hiding her from everyone else.
I don't want her to go in the box. You gave your word. And I intend to keep it. But right now, we have to worry about the people of the town.
Her arc revolves around her struggle to distinguish between her own agency and the monster's influence, making her both a tragic victim and a dangerous liability. Father Cartry, the town's priest, does see potential in Sarah, believing her connection to the monsters could unlock the town's secrets, but her actions often alienate her from the other residents. Throughout the series, like Jade, Sarah is a bit of a wild card, her moral ambiguity making her one of the show's most unpredictable and fascinating characters.
Something was watching me that day, the same thing that told Sarah.
And you think this thing is trying to help us by killing an old man and a child.
Sarah, what are you doing?
This is how we go home. They told me this was the last one and everyone gets to go home.
Whatever connection Sarah has makes her valuable in ways we may not even understand yet. That's not just a coincidence.
There's an interesting idea that new arrivals are chosen, which is introduced through Sarah, who tells Father Cartry that these monsters have been waiting for someone who can help them escape. They effectively prophesy the arrival of the Matthews family, Jade, and Toby, suggesting a sinister agenda at play here. Whether they lure people into the town searching for a savior or manipulate residents for darker motives is unclear by this point.
From the moment we open our newborn eyes, we plead for answers before we even have words to give voice to the questions.
It's important to note that Father Cartry serves as the spiritual anchor of the town, a man of faith whose belief in redemption and the power of the human spirit often clashes with the brutal reality of Fromville. A former priest, Cartry provides solace to the townsfolk while grappling with his own inner demons. He is a man haunted by past sins, which he cryptically hints at but never fully reveals, though it's heavily implied that he killed somebody. Cartry is an empathetic and measured figure, often serving as Boyd's moral counterweight, urging him to consider the human cost of his decisions.
You not coming back for the service? I'm sorry, something funny?
You gonna mention in your little service how you're the one who wanted him dead?
Feel better now?
I'm not having this conversation.
In that case, you're getting a sermon. How about Psalm 23 from the book of cut the self-pitying bullshit and be a leader?
In the first season, we learn that the creatures have knowledge of the residents' past lives. For instance, they reveal to Sarah the buried bag tied to Father Cartry's guilt over a past crime and Boyd's army nickname, Mr. Fish and Loaves. This intimate understanding raises questions about their origins and abilities, as well as the true purpose of their manipulative whispers.
Why did you believe them?
They told me things. Things they couldn't know. They told me those 2 cars were coming. They said it happened before.
I heard last night it was different. Who's Mr. Fish and Loaves?
It's me. Only 2 people who would have known that name is Ellis.
And your wife.
Something I found interesting is that Father Cartry remarks that there isn't a single Bible in the town, despite an abundance of novels. This absence suggests a deliberate exclusion of religious symbols, hinting at the town as an evil domain, possibly governed by an occult force. The recurring appearance of strange symbols throughout Season 1 supports this theory. It's sort of implied that the talismans protecting the residents from the monsters might be linked to this control, serving as a paradoxical tool of both protection and entrapment. Jade's visions of hanging corpses and a Civil War-era soldier further deepen the mystery, pointing to a dark history tied to the dimension.
These talismans, they will protect the houses in town. I don't know why it works, but they can't get in.
Father Cartry always talks about how much worse it was for people. They just hide in places after dark, hoping the monsters wouldn't find them.
While the talisman provide protection by barring the creatures from entering buildings on their own, as I mentioned earlier, the monsters use deception to lure victims into their grasp. In episode 7, we see this on full display. A creature named Jasmine tricks Kevin, a colony house resident, into opening a window. The result is a brutal ambush where the monsters slaughter 14 people. Understandably, the survivors are left deeply traumatized by this event, losing hope of ever escaping the town. On the same night as the Colony House massacre, Father Cartry meets a tragic end, dying in Boyd's arms after a creature attack. As we already know, Cartry had been sheltering Sarah in his church basement, believing her ability to hear the creature's voices could yield answers about the town. His death becomes a catalyst for Boyd's next choices.
So what are you suggesting?
That we go with you, Sarah and I. Okay, we use this connection to our advantage.
What is she doing here? You know what she tried to do.
No. Hey, look, I need to take her with me because she might be helpful for us to find out what we're looking for out there.
Boyd, who learns he's suffering from Parkinson's disease, resolves to honor Cartry's final wish, to uncover the truth behind the creatures using Sarah. And so, he and her venture into the forest, driven by a renewed determination to confront the mysteries head-on. Boyd's past also haunts him. His wife Abby lost her sanity in the town at the same time that he'd found the talisman that now protected each home. This led her to shoot fellow residents before turning the gun on their son Ellis. Unfortunately, Boyd was forced to kill Abby to save his boy. This act shattered his relationship with Ellis and left Boyd carrying a mountain of guilt.
Please, why are you doing this? It's okay. It's not real. It's a nightmare. The only way for us to go home is to wake everyone up.
Oh, Mom! Mom! All right. No!
Ellis is Boyd's estranged son, and a man caught between the shadows of his father's legacy and his own search for meaning in Fromville. His mother's mental breakdown and subsequent death at Boyd's hands left Ellis emotionally scarred, creating a deep rift between him and his father. Ellis finds solace and purpose in his relationship with Fatima, whose love helps him navigate the pain of his past. While initially resentful of Boyd, Ellis gradually begins to understand his father's sacrifices and choices, though their relationship remains fraught with tension. His role in the story often revolves around his desire to protect Fatima and the hope their relationship represents, but he's also a character deeply affected by the town's horrors.
We understand the chaos is the meaning. It is in our struggle, in our search, that we find our purpose.
And you know, I realized something. You're like a poem, you know that? You make everything around you beautiful. I don't even remember anymore who I was before you stepped out of that car. And I don't want to find out who I am without you. I mean, we could be here, we could be there, we could be anywhere in the world, but it would not matter because you are my home.
Fatima, on the other hand, is one of the town's most optimistic and compassionate residents, a ray of hope in a bleak and unforgiving world. Living at Colony House, she takes on the role of caregiver and emotional anchor for many of its people, particularly Ellis, her fiancé. Fatima's backstory, marked by her dreams of freedom and love, contrasts sharply with the grim reality of Fromville, yet she refuses to let despair consume her. Her relationship with Ellis serves as one of the few sources of genuine warmth and connection in the series, offering a glimmer of humanity amidst the chaos. However, Fatima's arc takes a dark turn in Season 3 in a harrowing series of events which shake her optimism and raise questions about the town's twisted mechanics. Despite this, her resilience and determination to protect those she loves remain central to her character.
I'm Fatima. I'm gonna be your proxy. A what? It's just a fancy way of saying I'm here to keep you company. Sometimes people freak out a bit the first night. It's just sometimes too much, you know?
Why did you bring me here?
Because I wanted you to see that if you climb high enough, even a nightmare can look like a dream.
Boyd's journey with Sarah takes a perilous turn when they encounter a bright light in the woods and are attacked by a different type of creature that they're unable to make out. The talisman saves them, but Boyd suffers a venomous spider bite that leaves him weak and hallucinating.
Abby?
Despite his declining health, Sarah encourages him to persevere. Following the light they saw earlier, the pair discover a lighthouse and hear a horn, possibly from a nearby ship. However, Boyd collapses, urging Sarah to return to the town and share their findings. The boy in white then appears, guiding them to a faraway tree. These are basically mysterious trees which can transport people to various locations with and from. While Boyd and Sarah step into the same tree, it separates them. Boyd ends up trapped in a confined space surrounded by rock walls, while Sarah's destination remains unknown for now.
Hey, hello? Hello? Hey! Hey!
Back in the town, the Matthews family uncover puzzling details about the infrastructure. Jim notices that the power cords lack internal wiring, yet somehow function, while Tabitha finds that these cords run directly into the ground.
The electricity, it has to come from somewhere, right? There's no power lines, and all the wires, they just go down, straight down.
We also learn that radios in the town behave erratically, occasionally picking up random frequencies and playing music. This phenomenon intensifies when Jim and Jade construct a transmission tower in an attempt to reach civilization, with the help of all the residents in town. As the pair attempt to contact the outside world via the tower, a storm disrupts their efforts. A voice then comes through the radio, later revealed to be the man in yellow, warning Jim to stop his wife Tabitha from digging in the basement of their home.
Who is this?
Your wife shouldn't be digging that hole, Jim.
As Jim runs back to the house, Tabitha continues digging, uncovering a hidden tunnel beneath the floor. When the ground collapses, she awakens inside the tunnel and finds Victor, who reveals he entered using the faraway tree. Victor also explains that the boy in white foretold her arrival, and explains that the monsters sleep in these tunnels during the daytime.
The boy in white? He said that you would come, that I should wait.
Victor is the town's most puzzling and hauntingly tragic figure. Having survived the last massacre in Fromville as a child, Victor has spent decades trapped in the town, his trauma and isolation manifesting in his childlike behavior and cryptic speech. He often serves as a reluctant guide, offering fragments of information about the town's history. His drawings, disturbing depictions of monsters, massacres, and strange symbols, hint at a deeper understanding of Fromville, though his fractured psyche makes him an unreliable narrator.
You've been here a pretty long time, huh?
I've been here the longest. For a long time, there was nobody else here but me.
His connection to the boy in white and his memories of Christopher in the lighthouse suggest that he holds critical knowledge about breaking the cycle of suffering. His relationship with Ethan and Tabitha adds depth to his character, as their kindness and curiosity brings out his protective instincts. Despite his eerie demeanor, Victor's motivations are rooted in a desperate need to prevent others from suffering the same fate he endured as a child.
Oh, no.
I warned you.
I'm not a bad person. I would never hurt anyone.
Dad, leave him alone.
The first season concludes with a significant event, the arrival of a bus, Grand Rapids Runner, filled with new characters, passengers who have no idea where they are or what's going on.
What the?
Season 2 balances temporary resolutions with a whole new set of questions. With new dangers, cryptic characters, and harrowing developments, the story pushes its characters to their limits while expanding the scope of the horrifying world they now inhabit. Season 2 begins with Sheriff Boyd trapped in a dungeon-like chamber, where he encounters a frail old man named Martin, who, while chained to the wall, manages to send a rope down to save him, telling him to hurry as they'll be back soon. Martin warns that he needs to leave before the music box stops playing, as there are great dangers on their way, despite Boyd's attempts to free the man. Confusing Boyd by asking if he thought Abby was right about all of this being a dream, he cuts him and transfers his tainted blood onto Boyd before dying.
My blood is your blood now.
This imbues Boyd with a strange and ominous curse. When Boyd eventually escapes, though, the dungeon inexplicably disappears, leaving him disoriented as he returns to town. The curse then begins to manifest physically as worms crawling under Boyd's skin. Desperate to get rid of it, and in a frantic move to protect the townspeople from the increasingly aggressive monsters, Boyd slits the throat of the smiley creature and repeats the same phrase as Martin, transferring the curse onto the monster. Much to the surprise of everyone, this ends up killing it and frightening the other creatures. Furthermore, when they do an autopsy, they find an orange liquid leaking out of the creature's gallbladder. Hoping to use it as a weapon, they determine they must store as much of it as possible.
It's bile. It's good, right? It's liquid. It might be something we could use, right?
Yeah, maybe something.
The only problem is that a new threat in the form of cicadas escape from the smiley creature's body and begin to infiltrate people's sleep and waking consciousness. Thus, Boyd's actions, though initially heroic, end up having unintended consequences that amplify the town's peril.
When the music box started playing, one of them jumped out and it burned my arm.
Are you honestly saying that our fucking dreams can hurt us now?
Of course, the arrival of the bus brings a fresh set of characters into the mix, further complicating the social dynamics. Among the new arrivals is Christie's fiancée, Marielle, who brings a fresh layer of emotional complexity to the series. Her arrival reunites her with Christie, but their relationship is immediately strained by Marielle's struggles with drug addiction. While Christie initially views her return as a second chance for their love, it quickly becomes clear that Marielle's personal demons threaten to destabilize both their relationship and the fragile dynamics of Fromville. Despite her flaws, Marielle has moments of vulnerability and self-awareness that make her more than a one-dimensional character. Her presence forces Christie to confront her own priorities and feelings for Kenny, creating a complex emotional triangle that adds tension to the narrative. Her struggle to adapt to the harsh realities and overcome her personal issues positions her as a character with significant growth, with her eventually becoming a vital cog in helping the community.
Everything's under control. You were on your way to rehab and you ended up here. There's nothing about that is under control.
Another arrival is Elgin, quiet and sensitive. From the moment he steps off the bus, Elgin stands apart from the other newcomers, haunted by premonitions and a sense of déjà vu that suggests he might know more about the town than he initially lets on. His visions, including a dream about the bus and the mysterious kimono woman, position him as a key player in unraveling some of the secrets. However, Elgin's naivety and vulnerability make him an easy target for manipulation. His arc ends up reflecting the moral ambiguity of From, where good intentions often pave the way for tragedy.
Stop the bus! Hey, bro, it's fine. We just took a little detour. No, we have to turn around. We can't be here. Bad things are gonna happen if...
What the f*** is wrong with you?
I'm sorry.
You're a goddamn freak.
Let's give him some space, okay?
Randall, another passenger from the bus, quickly establishes himself as a divisive figure. Randall is a quintessential troublemaker of From, a selfish and abrasive character who thrives on conflict and mistrust. His combative nature and refusal to cooperate with the established hierarchy make him a thorn in the side of Boyd and the other leaders. Randall is a survivalist at heart, but his approach is marked by paranoia and recklessness rather than strategy. His mistrust of authority and his willingness to put others in danger for his own benefit create significant tension within the group dynamics. Despite his flaws, Randall serves a purpose in the narrative. He highlights the fragility of the town's social order and the danger of individualism in a setting where collective survival is paramount.
Well, you think this place is one big experiment, right? And it never occurred to you that some of the people here might be in on it? You know what I'm starting to think, Jim? Maybe you just put this shit in my head to see what I would do.
Familiar faces from Season 1 also grapple with new challenges. Sarah, now back in town, is forced to confront Kenny, who learns that she was responsible for his father's death. Despite his understandable anger, Kenny sets aside personal grievances to focus on the escalating threats.
She's going in the fucking box.
Kenny?
She killed my dad! They tore him to pieces, and you knew!
At the same time, Jim's pursuit of answers intensifies as he and Randall become convinced the town is part of a cruel experiment. Randall's recklessness peaks when he takes Donna hostage as part of a misguided plan to prove this theory.
This was not part of the plan. She's part of the reason we're still here. F her! We are not doing this.
Whatever stupid ideas you got locked in that rock-hard head of yours, they're gonna get you killed.
Meanwhile, Tabitha learns about Victor's mother Miranda, who had once ventured to a tower in an attempt to save children. Tabitha believes the strange children she's been seeing are connected to this story and becomes determined to find the tower herself. She basically hopes to achieve what Victor's mother could not, believing that it could be the key to returning home.
All this time I thought the children were trying to scare me, but what if they're just asking for my help? Victor said his mother wanted to rescue the children, that it was the only way to get everyone home.
As the season progresses, the cicadas pose an increasingly lethal threat. The crisis begins when Randall, Marielle, and Julie are attacked. Their symptoms are terrifying. They fall unconscious, their eyes become clouded and grey, and they're gripped by excruciating pain, screaming in unison at regular intervals. The pattern of attacks actually aligns with a nursery rhyme Elgin recalls from a dream, suggesting a sinister logic behind the unfolding events. And despite the efforts of friends and family, no one can understand or alleviate their suffering.
They touch, they break, they steal. No one here is free. Here they come for three. Unless you stop the melody.
Desperate for answers, Boyd and Kenny turn to Sarah, whose past encounters with the supernatural suggest that she might have insight into the crisis. Her connection to the mysterious boy in white and the music box resurfaces, as Elgin mentions seeing the boy in his dream.
Now, I'm just gonna say this as plainly as I can. Sarah is uniquely connected to this place. Something here has communicated with her.
There was this boy, all dressed in white, and he kept repeating the same phrase over and over.
And so Boyd brings her to the clearing where he'd previously found the dungeon-like chamber. There, Sarah experiences a visceral reaction, claiming she hears the music box and warning that the victims will soon die if the music isn't stopped. Her nose then begins to bleed, and her frantic attempts to locate the box lead to nothing. Boyd, however, takes her warning to heart and begins searching for a solution.
It's laughing at you for setting it free. It wants to hurt us. It wants to make us suffer.
A sudden realization strikes him. The chamber might appear if he returns to the forest clearing with a torch. Acting on this hunch, he ventures into the woods, and as he lights the torch, the chamber materializes once again. Inside, Boyd finds Marielle, Julie, and Randall chained to the walls, their faces contorted in agony. The source of their torment, the music box, plays incessantly in a corner of the room. Boyd knows destroying it is the only way to save them. However, his resolve is tested when his deceased wife Abby appears.
Wants you to have hope that you could actually win.
Why?
It's not your fear that feeds the forest boy. It's hope.
Abby tries to dissuade him, arguing that the victims will inevitably die and that giving them hope would be an act of cruelty. Her words echo the manipulative projections Boyd has encountered before, visions designed to undermine his confidence and mislead him in critical moments. Recognizing this, Boyd steels himself and refuses to be swayed. Trusting his instincts, he smashes the music box, silencing it forever. The effects are immediate and miraculous. Marielle, Julie, and Randall awaken in their respective beds, fully recovered. Their eyes return to normal, and they regain their ability to speak. Ethan also observes the cicada's ominous buzzing has ceased, signaling that the immediate danger is past.
She's okay. Your sister's okay.
But over at Colony House, grief and despair take a dark turn when Reggie, a mourning husband his wife Paula recently died, begins spiraling into madness. Reggie had been locked in a room the previous night after a frenzied outburst nearly turned violent. Although he appears calm the next morning and even accepts Ellis's apology for restraining him, it soon becomes clear that his mental state has worsened dangerously. After killing a Colony House guard to acquire a gun, his first target is Sheriff Boyd, whom he blames for the cicadas that brought devastation to the town. While Reggie shoots Boyd in the shoulder, Boyd manages to quickly retaliate with his handgun, fatally wounding Reggie.
I never realized how fragile we are, how easily we break.
Meanwhile, amidst the turmoil, Ellis and Fatima grapple with the precariousness of their situation. Reflecting on Reggie's grief and the looming sense of doom, Fatima proposes they get married immediately, seizing the moment while they still can. And so a small intimate wedding ceremony takes place at Colony House, which Donna officiates, and Boyd, despite his injury, joins the celebration.
Let's get married today. Look, we have no idea what's gonna happen. If this is the end, then I want it to end with you.
On the other side of town, Jade's obsessive quest to unravel the meaning of a recurring symbol intensifies. Since his arrival, the symbol has haunted him, appearing in his hallucinations and even in Tabitha's accounts of the underground tunnels. While spending time alone at the bar, which he has essentially claimed as his refuge, Jade is confronted by a vision of Tom, the deceased bartender. Despite recognizing it as a hallucination, Jade converses with him, mirroring Boyd's interactions with visions of Father Cartry.
So what's all this supposed to do?
It's a way of reorienting my perspective. I'm trying to find a different way to look at this symbol.
I think you're overthinking it. You already know what you have to do. Tabitha told you she saw this symbol down in the tunnels.
Going down into those tunnels would be insane.
This spectral encounter drives Jade to finally explore the tunnels and uncover the truth behind the symbol. And so Jade enters the forest and crawls into the tunnels, where he encounters strange and unsettling sights. Among them is Jasper, the ventriloquist doll that belonged to Christopher. We learn from Victor that Christopher was once a vibrant presence back in the 1970s, known for his lightheartedness and ability to make others laugh, bringing levity to the grim reality of life here. However, everything soon changed. Victor, a child at the time, vividly recalled Christopher in a heated conversation with Jasper, an exchange that was startling not only for its intensity, but also because Jasper seemed to respond. Shortly afterward, tragedy struck. The creatures descended upon the town and slaughtered everyone except for Victor, who miraculously survived.
And whoever this Christopher guy was, he saw it too. He saw it, he obsessed over it, he drew it 1,000 fucking times.
Christopher started seeing that symbol. Things changed. He changed. And he didn't make people laugh anymore.
Left alone in a harrowing landscape of death, young Victor faced the overwhelming task of dealing with the aftermath. Unable to bury all the bodies of the deceased, he chose instead to memorialize them in a different way. Gathering a precious item from each victim, he placed these keepsakes in a suitcase, creating a poignant tribute to those he had lost. However, despite his efforts to preserve these mementos, Victor could not locate Jasper, deepening the mystery surrounding Christopher's final days and his cryptic connection to the symbol.
You don't make moral choices based on the outcomes you expect. Make them based on whether or not you think they're right. There's a 16-year-old girl over there who needs your help.
Jade presses on, eventually reaching a clearing where he's struck by an extraordinary sight. The symbol, formed by branches and overgrowth, looms above him. Around him lie 7 stone slabs, each occupied by a child chanting the cryptic word Ankui. These are revealed to be the same spectral children that Tabitha has been seeing as well. Convinced that her destiny is to find the elusive tower and rescue the children she's been seeing, Tabitha decides that this mission may be the key to saving the trapped townsfolk.
My mother said this one was special, that it would take her to the tower, to the children.
And then what?
That's all I remember.
Sharing her intentions with Jim, she seeks Victor's help to locate the tower. Though Victor admits he doesn't know the exact location, he offers a solution, one of the faraway trees, which he believes can take her there. With a heartfelt goodbye, he gives Tabitha his lunchbox filled with snacks for her journey, wishing her luck as she steps into the tree.
I put some snacks inside for you.
Thank you.
This is where things start to get really weird. Emerging on the other side, Tabitha finds herself in a dense forest before spotting the tower from her visions, revealed to be a lighthouse. Determined, she climbs its staircase, which is littered with toys belonging to the children. There are also numerous years scribbled on the walls, implying that Fromville might undergo time jumps whenever the monsters massacre all the humans in town. I think the town essentially resets after each massacre, entering a new era. The last known massacre occurred during Victor's childhood, when his mother hid him from the monsters, sparing his life. Victor survived alone until a new group of humans arrived, and confirms that the town changes with time, supporting the idea of a periodic reset. As Tabitha ascends the staircase, she hears the eerie chant of a child calling her from the top of the lighthouse. When she reaches the summit, she encounters the boy dressed in white. The boy approaches her, apologizing for what is about to happen, and says that it's the only way. Without further explanation, he pushes Tabitha backward, sending her crashing through the glass and falling from the tower. The screen cuts to black, and when Tabitha is next seen, she awakens in a hospital bed. A doctor informs her that she was found injured by a group of hikers in a forest, and she realizes that she's back in the real world. This raises profound questions about the nature of the lighthouse and its connection to the town. Like the faraway tree, the structure seems to function as a portal, but one allowing individuals to escape to the real world, which seems to exist in another reality altogether.
Let it go, Boyd. If they don't die today, they'll just die tomorrow.
The latest season sheds light on the origins of the monsters and the cryptic behavior of the ghost children. Yet it also leaves some of the show's biggest mysteries unresolved, namely, what and where the town is and why its residents are trapped there, and how or if they can escape. Season 3 also charts a rapid deterioration of life in Fromville. What had once been an uneasy peace, defined by a rigid set of survival rules, unravels as the unseen forces controlling the town change tactics. The weather grows colder for the first time in memory, and food supplies dwindle. The creatures that lurk in the woods at night also become increasingly aggressive, no longer waiting passively for mistakes, but actively disrupting the fragile equilibrium.
Are you looking for these? Take them. We get to keep Randall, though.
This new hostility begins with the monsters releasing the town's farm animals from their barns, forcing residents to venture out into danger to recapture them. The escalating attacks result in several deaths, including the brutal murder of Mrs. Chen, Kenny's mother, which is carried out in front of Boyd, who is forced to watch but is otherwise left unharmed. One of the monsters even explicitly declares that Boyd's earlier challenge, to remain unbroken, has been accepted. The season then largely revolves around the creature's psychological and physical torment of Boyd, their apparent goal now being to shatter his resolve, as he's the one person effectively holding the town together.
You don't fucking break me. Do you remember that, boy? That's what she said.
Kill me, but you leave her alone.
I'm not gonna kill you, Boyd. That would be no fun. You think this place can't break you? Let's see.
After returning to the real world in Season 2, Tabitha now finds Victor's father, Henry, who recognizes his son's lunchbox from all those decades ago. While initially skeptical of Tabitha's claims that Victor, his daughter Eloise, and his wife Miranda had gotten trapped in a pocket dimension, Henry starts to believe her.
You showed up with the lunchbox my son left here with, so you're gonna tell me how you found that.
He describes how his wife was an artist in their hometown of Camden, Maine, who began to have visions of From and the children that claimed they needed to be saved from a tower. Miranda then began to paint all her visions and dreams from the town, before she and their children got trapped there in 1978.
Miranda was an artist. She did all sorts of installations all over town. This was always one of her favorites. So you would step into the tree like teleporting?
It doesn't matter. It's just a tree.
Well, it's not the original, if that matters. The original's in a park. That was where we dropped acid together. You could say that tree is where this all started.
Henry explains that he'd been searching for them since, and taking Tabitha to the yard, he reveals a tree adorned with glass bottles, much like the ones that were visible in From. In fact, he explains that the one here is based off another installation she made in town, the precise location where she began having the visions in the first place. With this, Tabitha and Henry decide to drive to that location, but get involved in a car accident. Unfortunately, when Tabitha wakes up, she finds herself in an ambulance, along with Henry, a police officer called Danny, and an ambulance crew that stumble on the fallen tree from the start of Season 1.
Hey, everything all right?
There's a tree in the middle of the road.
However, due to all of them not really believing Tabitha's claims about the creatures approaching them, the newcomers in town fare poorly, and the ambulance crew are quickly killed. In another effort to break Boyd, the monsters give him the key to the ambulance to save Tabitha and Henry in exchange for Randall, whom they begin to torment and injure.
You can't save them all.
Boy! Boy, did you leave me a piece of shit?
Another major subplot throughout Season 3 revolves around Fatima's supposed pregnancy. Early on, her condition raises hope, offering a rare glimmer of positivity in the grim existence. However, the truth behind her pregnancy is far darker than anyone anticipated, with her cravings forcing her to consume rotten food and even human blood.
Whatever is inside me, it's getting stronger. The fucking cravings, they're getting stronger.
At the same time, Elgin's journey also takes a tragic and pivotal turn, marking him as both a victim of manipulation and a catalyst for the town's intensifying conflict. His sensitivity to supernatural elements, previously hinted at in Season 2, allows him to sense things that others cannot, but it also renders him susceptible to influence.
Help me, Elgin. I can save all of you.
The spirit of a kimono-clad woman appears to him, unseen by anyone else, and convinces him that following her instructions is the key to escaping Fromville. Unfortunately, this guidance leads Elgin down a dark and destructive path, leading him to kidnap Fatima and hold her hostage in the underground cellar.
I'm sorry. I really am. This is for the best.
He believes that this act, however extreme, will somehow save the townsfolk and allow them to return to their original lives. His actions, though misguided, are driven by a desperate sense of duty and a growing hero complex. However, his unusual behavior and evident nervousness quickly arouse Ellis's suspicions, leading to Elgin's eventual discovery.
I wanted to help. I don't want to hurt anybody. But you have to understand, what's happening is a good thing.
When all of this comes to light, he faces brutal retribution. Boyd, Ellis, Donna, and Sarah interrogate him to extract information, while everyone else looked for Fatima. This results in Elgin being severely beaten by Boyd.
You should see Fatima's belly.
Okay, where the fuck is she? Where the fuck is she? Where is she?
Just...
It's your last
I can't.
chance.
Boyd, I can't. I can't.
Sarah, who knows how the town can manipulate people into doing horrible things, ultimately takes control of the interrogation to stop Boyd from corrupting his soul further, and ends up blinding Elgin in one eye. While he reveals the location of Fatima, his injuries are so severe that his survival is left uncertain.
Boyd doesn't understand how far he needs to go. He's a good man, and this place has taken so much from him.
Sarah? Sarah?
She's in the root cellar.
The parallels between Elgin's current situation and Sarah's earlier experiences are stark. Like Elgin, Sarah was manipulated by the monsters and acted under their influence, but Boyd ultimately supported her and helped her reintegrate into the community. In contrast, Boyd allows Elgin to suffer, highlighting a bias in his decision-making, especially given that Fatima, the victim in this scenario, is Boyd's daughter-in-law. This double standard doesn't go unnoticed by everyone else.
I mean, this place got inside his head, convinced him he was actually protecting Fatima, and now you're out here getting ready to go medieval on him. You protect what's yours, you f anyone who gets in your way. You were supposed to be better than this.
You were supposed to be here. I'm doing the best I can.
You know there's no coming back from this, right? You said that you weren't gonna let this place break you.
Horrifically, though, before the group can find her, Fatima gives birth to the Smiley creature, the same monster Sheriff Boyd had killed in Season 2. The kimono woman extracted the larval form of the monster from Fatima's womb and took her to the cellar through a trap door. The larva then rapidly transformed into a fully formed monster within seconds. According to Fatima, these creatures, once human, had sacrificed their children to an entity in exchange for immortality. It is pretty much suggested that Fatima's synchronization with the monster during her pregnancy is what allowed her to uncover this truth.
Sacrifice their children because it promised them that they would live forever.
However, the circumstances surrounding these sacrifices remain unclear. Did these acts take place in the monster's original realities, or did they happen after arriving in Fromville? The latter seems more likely, raising new questions. Why did they seek immortality in a place that, before their transformation, lacked any monsters? Perhaps the early residents faced an even more ancient and malevolent threat, one that led to the creation of protective totems and statues, like the ones found near the cabin in the woods.
Can't believe people actually lived out here.
Just look at how they're positioned. They may have been using them the same way we use the talismans, warding off evil spirits.
The process by which the monsters are reborn, requiring human pregnancies rather than instant regeneration, offers a potential vulnerability for the survivors. If they can exploit this slow process, they might find a way to resist the monster's dominance. However, the creature's taunts and manipulations make it clear that they remain firmly in control for now.
I was Miranda. Jade was Christopher. We've come back over and over again because we failed the first time.
It's important to note that a profound connection between Tabitha, Jade, and Fromville's twisted history is discovered in this season. Through a series of revelations, it becomes clear that Tabitha and Jade are reincarnations of Miranda and Christopher, who are themselves implied to be reincarnations of two key figures from the town's ancient past.
Jade and I were here at the beginning. We tried to save those children and set them free because one of them was ours.
These two figures had once been a couple who tried to save the children that were trapped in Fromville, including their own daughter. These children, sacrificed by their parents and other residents in a bid for immortality, became the spectral figures chanting Ankui. This tragedy bound their souls to Fromville, dooming them to reincarnation and perpetual return. Each new iteration of their lives brings them back to the town, where they must confront the same horrors and try to break the cycle once again.
What the others did to them.
What others, Victor?
The people they loved.
Jade's recurring visions and nightmares aren't mere hallucinations, but fragments of events from his previous life, including his failure to save the Ankui children from the entity. Tabitha's connection to her past as Miranda is also explored. Miranda likely had similar visions of her past life, which explains the paintings Tabitha found in the storeroom. These depicted the same monsters and children, but in different eras. There's also a picture of the man in yellow, which we'll touch on a little bit later.
But she wasn't the first. Others were chosen before her. She could see each and every one.
Tabitha dreamed of the town because her soul had been there before, and in Season 3's penultimate episode, she recalls her death near the faraway tree in a previous life. Her reincarnations appeared doomed to die before reaching the lighthouse, but this time, the boy in white intervened and helped her escape the town.
It was the boy in white. He was the one who was telling secrets to Christopher.
I'm sorry. I really am. This is the only way.
Importantly, we also get a new aspect to Julie, who discovers her unique ability as a story walker, a term coined by her younger brother Ethan, which allows her to observe events from the past.
You're a story walker. What? Someone who can visit chapters of the story that already happened.
Though Ethan insists that she cannot alter the past, Julie's prior actions suggest otherwise. In a notable instance, she threw a rope into the well to help Boyd escape. This created a paradox, implying the existence of a time loop in which Julie's present actions directly interact with the past. A glitch in the Matrix, as it were, connecting different chapters in the town's story.
Julie.
How do you know my name?
He needs the rope. Please.
Her story-walking ability positions her as a potential key to breaking the cycle of reincarnation that traps everyone in Fromville. By understanding past cycles and mistakes made by previous iterations, Julie could help Tabitha, Jade, and the others avoid repeating these errors. This knowledge may ultimately enable them to save the children and escape.
He said the answers to the end are at the beginning, that it started with the children.
Thanks to a violin melody played by Jade, he and Tabitha regain their memories and recall their refusal to sacrifice children when this nightmare began. This defiance cursed them to an endless cycle of forgetting and returning to Fromville, unable to escape its clutches.
No.
Oh, God.
No. I can't.
Tabitha also reveals that Ankui means remember. This deepens the tragic dimension of their plight, positioning them as outliers in a community shaped by compliance and sacrifice.
Ankui.
What's that?
Ankui. It means remember.
In episode 8, Victor fully recalls the conversation Christopher had in the 70s, revealed to not have been with Jasper, but with the boy in white, who urged him to save the children in the lighthouse. It's also confirmed the children were indeed betrayed and murdered by those they loved and trusted most, their parents. However, these children found hope in the stories told to them by someone, later revealed to be Jade and Tabitha in their past lives. Through these stories, the children gained strength, pouring their hope into the roots beneath the sacrificial stones. These roots eventually grew into the faraway tree, symbolizing the children's hope and their best chance to break the cycle of sacrifice. The faraway tree's magical properties make it a crucial element in the children's potential salvation. It appears to change locations, likely to prevent the entity referred to as the devil and his monsters from finding and destroying it.
And when the children laid on the stones, they poured their hope into the roots that made the symbol, and those roots became the tree.
The faraway tree.
The season's final moments raise the stakes further. A man in a filthy yellow coat emerges from the forest in broad daylight. He approaches Jim just as Julie, now frantic after learning she can walk between stories, appears to warn her father. Despite her warning, Jim confronts him, determined to protect his daughter, who bears a fresh scratch on her face.
This didn't have to happen, you know. Back up. Knowledge comes with a cost.
Back the f up!
The confrontation turns deadly. The man in yellow effortlessly overpowers Jim and tells him that knowledge comes with a cost. He then seizes Jim and reminds him of the warning he gave him over the radio about Tabitha digging the hole in Season 1 before brutally ripping out his throat. The man appears to be the creator of Fromville, and the one who made the pact with the other creatures, the entity referred to as the Devil. To me, he seems angered because Tabitha attempted to escape his realm without his permission, prompting his retribution. The man in yellow is also aware of the glitch in the Matrix that Julie is able to take advantage of. The fact that the entity finally came out into the open for the first time to attack Jim indicates that his family is a major threat to him and his control over the pocket dimension.
Your wife shouldn't have dug that hole, Jim.
As the season comes to an end, the rules governing Fromville, the abilities of the residents, and the dynamics in the town have shifted dramatically. Tabitha and Jade have been established as the heart of the story moving forward, with them poised to lead the charge in breaking the cycle of reincarnation and sacrifice that binds him to the town. The extent and limitations of Julie's story-walking powers remain unclear, but her potential to influence aspects of the past opens up intriguing possibilities. While she may not be able to rewrite the foundational events of Fromville, she could subtly manipulate circumstances to alter specific outcomes. Her father's death will undoubtedly motivate her to explore these abilities in Season 4. A straightforward solution, ensuring that Jim isn't in the forest at that critical moment, could theoretically prevent his demise, but such an intervention may fall beyond her reach. The mechanics of her powers likely operate under strict rules, which Julie must uncover and navigate. I also think that Julie might not be the only one with these kind of abilities. Randall and Marielle, who were trapped in the tower with her, could also possess similar powers. If this ends up being true, the trio may become central to combating the town's horrors in the upcoming season. It goes without saying that the man in yellow also represents a new, more direct challenge to the residents, embodying the larger, unseen forces that control the town. His motivations and connection to the monsters will be critical to understanding the true nature of Fromville and its rules. With the stakes higher than ever, From Season 4 promises to deepen the show's mythology, while pushing its characters to their limits in the fight for survival and freedom. From is a show that's equal parts captivating and infuriating. Over 3 seasons, it's managed to weave a tangled web of mystery, horror, and existential dread, keeping us hooked with its eerie premise, strong characters, and relentless questions. But like the very town it depicts, it traps us in a frustrating loop of tantalizing ideas and half-answers. At its core, it has a phenomenal setup. A mysterious, uncharted town traps random passers-by, forcing them into a nightmarish existence surrounded by sinister, bloodthirsty monsters. The hook is simple, yet effective. Why are these people here? Who or what controls the town, and how can they escape? The early episodes do a great job of establishing the stakes. The monsters, with their grotesque smiles and calculated manipulation of their victims, are genuinely chilling. The talismans that protect the townsfolk create a clever mechanic that adds to the tension. The premise immediately hooks you because it asks all the right questions, and for a while, you believe it's building towards some satisfying answers. But this is where From begins to reveal its Achilles heel. The writers love asking questions far more than answering them.
Why not just kill him?
What others, Victor?
You ready to tell me what's going on with you?
What kind of snack did Victor make?
Hey, what are you doing?
What happened?
What am I going to tell them?
What are you doing out here?
What do you want?
Why are you here?
Why are you showing me this?
Why are we in here?
Why'd they leave him alive?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know, buddy.
I don't know where they are. I don't know.
It's like hitting a bullseye with your eyes closed, right? You're just throwing them blind. You don't even know where the fucking target is. Maybe it's over here. I don't know.
Where From shines is in its characters. The show gives us a surprisingly well-rounded cast, each with distinct motivations and arcs. Sheriff Boyd, played with compelling gravitas by Harold Perrineau, is the show's moral compass and reluctant leader. His struggles, whether it's his battle with Parkinson's, his guilt over his wife's breakdown, or his frustration at being unable to protect the town, anchor the story emotionally. Boyd is the closest thing to a hero the show has, and his evolution across the 3 seasons is one of its biggest strengths.
What's in the car?
Nothing, just some supplies. Gotta go over to the church, take them to Father Country.
Victor, the enigmatic man-child who survived the last massacre, is another standout. His strange, almost otherworldly perspective adds layers to the show's lore. Then there's Tabitha, a mother haunted by visions and determined to protect her family. And Jade, the arrogant tech genius whose descent into obsession over the town's symbols provides a fascinating subplot.
You're trying to figure out how to fix him. You can't, because he's not broken. Victor is the product of what this place made him. It's not rocket science.
Where are you going?
Back to the bar. At least there I can pretend I'm being productive.
But the show falters with its secondary characters. Some, like Kenny and Christy, feel wasted despite ample screen time. Others, like Randall, get introduced with promise only to fade into irrelevance. While the central cast get their moments, the sheer volume of characters occasionally spreads the narrative too thin, making it hard to invest in everyone equally.
When I first got here, those things in the woods, they would come out at night and they would take whoever the fuck they wanted. So, we could either lay down and die, or we can say fuck you. Fuck you!
Credit where it's due. From nails its atmosphere. The isolated town, the shadowy forest, and the ever-present threat of nightfall create a palpable sense of dread. The monsters, with their slow, deliberate movements and psychological manipulation, are a masterstroke of horror design. They don't just kill, they destroy their victims' hopes before tearing them apart.
Get off him! Get off him!
You don't fucking break me! I'm sorry. You're so strong! You're so strong!
The show also excels at visual storytelling. The lighthouse, the faraway tree, and the dungeon-like ruins hint at a deeper mythology without spelling everything out. The shifting tone of the town, from eerie calm to outright chaos, keeps the stakes high. And if there's one thing From understands, it's how to make its audience feel trapped and terrified alongside its characters. Here's the big issue with From, though. It's addicted to its own mysteries. For 3 seasons, the show introduces one cryptic element after another without offering meaningful resolutions, except for the ending of Season 3, which I think did a decent job of starting to connect some of the disparate threads together. There's a fine line between intrigue and frustration, and From repeatedly stumbles over it. The problem isn't just the lack of answers, it's the lack of progress. Each season ends with more questions piled on top of the existing ones, creating a sense of narrative stagnation. While some might argue this is part of the show's charm, it's just a little bit alienating for people who crave clarity.
Something is happening here that's beyond our ability to understand. Like in the Bible, people never really understood then, but they had faith.
We did.
I think the show's pacing is another mixed bag. When From is firing on all cylinders, it's riveting. The night attacks, the moral dilemmas, and the interpersonal conflicts create an engaging cocktail of drama and horror. But the quieter moments often drag, and some subplots feel like filler. The introduction of new characters, like the bus passengers, initially promises to shake things up, but ends up bogging down the narrative with unnecessary side stories.
There's a f***ing bus down there. God knows how many people with zero idea of the shitstorm they just rolled into. How do you think they're gonna react when we tell them they can't leave?
We've got some problems.
Oh, shit.
The focus on Boyd, Jade, and Tabitha in Season 3 works really well, but the other arcs, like Elgin's connection to the town or Sarah's ongoing struggles, feel undercooked. The show's refusal to prioritize certain storylines over others creates a scattershot effect, diluting its overall impact. Beneath the surface, From is a show about cycles, of life, death, and rebirth. The reincarnation theory adds a fascinating layer, tying the town's horror to themes of punishment and redemption. The idea that the monsters are cursed humans, endlessly sacrificing their own children, is both chilling and tragic. Jade and Tabitha's roles as reincarnated saviors trying to break the cycle provide a solid emotional core, even if the execution feels a little bit uneven. At its best, From uses these themes to explore questions of morality and survival. What would you sacrifice to save yourself? How do you hold on to hope in a hopeless situation? Unfortunately, these themes sometimes get lost in a labyrinth of unanswered questions and half-baked subplots. While From excels in atmosphere, character work, and tension, its narrative excesses and reluctance to provide answers hold it back from true greatness. For now, it remains a fascinating and frustrating ride. A show that keeps you hooked, even as it refuses to let you off the hook.
Because we often say that the day that we stop being surprised by the show, then the show will start to feel stale. So it's very important, like we have a plan, there's been a plan since the beginning, but to allow that to evolve and to allow that to be an organic process.
Yeah, and then importantly, and we said this from the beginning, this show is not about the mystery. This show is about the characters living in a set of circumstances, the answers that they, the audience, we want to share or know will come out along the way. It's not going to be a big payoff at the ending. I think the most interesting thing about this show is the answers to the mysteries are just going to fuel more journey and more complications for the characters. If this were only about what are the answers, either the audience is like, oh, that was really cool, moving on to the next, or else they're disappointed because the mystery didn't live up to the expectation. So really, if you care about their plights, the mysteries just service that along the way.